Actually, this broadcast is a bit nerve-wracking for me because it's a completely new format, an absolutely new format. We haven't tested or conducted anything like this before. I don't even know how I will behave in this format. But I'm personally interested in seeing this format, how it will actually go for us. Today we have an interesting topic. We thought a lot about the title. I think the title is a bit, we'll announce it later, if this, so to speak, this format, if it resonates with us, and you, yes, if we find it interesting, useful, and we see many advantages in it. Accordingly, we will keep it and further develop it a bit more. So, for now, this is a debate format. I say yes, and I have invited one person here, just a bit. I'll talk about him later, yes? And I'll invite him, and we'll be on the air together. So today's format, the debate topic, so-called someone will take the position in favor of investments. Yes, for saving and investing. And the other side will argue that, after all, these investments should be lived here and now, as it's unclear what tomorrow will bring. Yes? And today, I decided to invite a person who, well, with whom I've traveled a certain path in life. And we've known each other, if my memory serves me right, for about 12 years, since quite a young age. We have gone through not Crimea, Rome, as they say, the brass pipes, to some extent in the formation. His name is Vseslav Matveychuk. He is my friend. We have experience, like once traveling by minibus. Yes, walking on foot, because there was no money for transportation, eating food we prepared ourselves in some small room, and up to the point where there is already such a good standard of living, flights to different countries, travels, and many different moments. Therefore, Vseslav, I want to invite you. Please join in.
Hello, everyone.
If you want, you can say a few words before the broadcast, because I have, as usual, a storm of emotions before something new. So, in principle, the topic of the broadcast, what format this broadcast will take. What can you say before the start?
Of what I understood as this new format of entertainment, because there is a lot of negativity around in general, and the world is kind of turbulent. Now you lack this, a code of positivity, joy, good mood. So this, thank you. This series of broadcasts, probably this section, is even better to say. It is designed for a pleasant evening pastime, if the name doesn't deceive. It's all about the Crypto-Bazaar. So specifically, the Odessans will understand immediately. Well, I think that people who are into crypto from the outside will understand that it's a crypto bazaar. Well, it's exactly such a bazaar. So here, these sections might include slang, yes, some expressions. So, but mainly there are two sides, as Zhenya said, and accordingly, one side advocates for investing, for some kind of, well, for a more proper management of one's finances, while the other side supports a more relaxed, free lifestyle. And accordingly, today through music, we'll decide who and how, who will advocate for what, and accordingly, we'll dance to that.
Yes, today our format will be more free. And each of us, in fact, once their role is determined, you will see this further. They just need to convey it. It will be the mindset of the person who defends a particular position. And do it from the perspective of their own view, through the prism of their own experiences. Therefore, as Vyacheslav said, start seriously. We want to determine live who will lead, which topic, and defend which position. We were absolutely unprepared for this presentation, although there were ideas about who might present what. But we decided that we wouldn't know what the topic would be or who would have it. Yes, who, which position they would defend. So we will just now distribute, so to speak, the roles of today's broadcast live. Whoever wins, we will play rock, paper, scissors. Yes, whoever wins will be for what, Vyacheslav? What do you think? Or how would you like it?
I think, let's say, whoever wins will advocate for investments. Because personally, when they say to me, go ahead, you try, it's like a kind of higgledy-piggledy, yes, here and now. You need to live to the fullest, as they say, go all out. Well, it was really hard for me at that moment because I had to strain my brain. Well, How is it? I mean, like everything is so simple to load somewhere. Well, it was really hard. So let's do it this way. Whoever wins will have it easier. They will handle the investment. And of course, dear viewers, we will chat a little here. Yes. And at the end, when it will be, let's say, almost getting personal, we will have 100. And then the voting will be up to you. That is, you will determine whose point of view suits you better. Yes. So it's for, against, and basically feedback, because as mentioned, the new format is still being tested. And if you like it, then accordingly, it will be into this fund. It will become a permanent fixture. So, and of course, at the very end, we will discuss, well, indeed, what one thinks. Yes, that's it. Based on all of these, the dialogue, who actually holds what position?
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Let's go up. Start the topic once more. We have someone advocating for investments, for the need to invest, save, and accumulate savings. Someone says to live in the moment, spend everything you earn, for example, in a month. So there is feedback. I see the advantages. So, Viseslav, are you ready?
Like a man, let's do it. 1, 2, 3.
The most important thing is that the connection doesn't lag now. We have, wait, I just don't know what kind of guys you have in countries, places, I don't know, cities. They play a little differently. That is, some have, I think, a list, paper, some seem not to. We have rock, scissors, and paper. What else is there? In my childhood, when we played, we had
a well and a shovel. We had those. We had everything you could think of. Everything that was in front of us, we could use it all. I won't have a shovel. Let's just do scissors, rock, paper, and well. Rock, scissors, paper, and well. Well, okay.
I just don't remember what the well does. Well, like scissors can fall in, you know? So scissors can fall into the well, rock can fall into the well, paper can cover the well. Kind of. I won, or you did.
Oh, like paper rules, I got it. All right, let's go.
But paper can be torn by rock and scissors. No.
No matter how you play camera scissors, rock can drown and paper wraps the rock in the well, but scissors cut the paper. All correct. All correct.
Well, let's see. Whoever wins invests. Yes.
Well, with God, let's go 1, 2, and then perhaps, wait.
1, 2, 3. But actually, it would be more interesting to choose your direction. That's more interesting. I have something to say. I just had a period in my life. A certain period passed when everything that was earned was spent, and even more. That's why this period is great. Really, it's very great. It's just, well, in youth and in principle, the emotions it gives are cool. But when situations arise, some are not. All right then, let's start. I'm first. So I can say I'm the nerd today who insists on saving and investing, and you're, as usual, just goofing around. So, well, the topic of investments. Why is it important to invest? Why is it important to save? Why is it important to be able to manage investments, to reallocate investments? Well, I'll say that, firstly, people come to investing at a certain age, but I would even say differently, with certain experiences in their lives. That is, at some point, you most likely spend everything. You earn, then something happens, and you come to the understanding that you need to at least start saving money. Then you start investing, then you learn to invest correctly, then you preserve capital, then at least keep up with inflation, right? And that's already good. That is to create assets, liabilities that can provide the opportunity to live freely, easily, and stop working. Stop depending on a boss, a manager, right? Who might scold you, and so on. Not to be afraid of needing to change the car tires, because at some point you might forget. A person who doesn't plan, especially one who doesn't invest, can end up in some unpleasant situation. Because in my experience, in my examples, such things have happened, and I will probably go on to tell you about one interesting situation that I witnessed. It was quite, I would say, painful to tears. So, Spending here and now, yes, it's kind of like a youthful phase. Illiteracy, so, and I would say foolishness, stupidity. Investing, on the other hand, requires putting funds in. You need to know how to manage them. You need to have a cushion to rely on for at least 1 year of living. So if you spend, for example, a certain amount of money is spent per person or per family, such an amount is spent in a month, at least according to proper financial literacy. You should have at least 1 year's worth of money saved just in case something might happen. An injury at work, a twisted ankle, an illness. There can be many situations, and you need to be prepared for them so that later on you don't have to go around, cry, ask anyone, borrow money, or feel inadequate. These temporary bursts of emotion come at the moment when income arrives. And immediately you want to buy something, a phone, I don't know, fly somewhere, change something in the car, finish something else. I remember I used to have such silly thoughts before. That is to say, we are actually following the whims of our brain. And this is not a sensible approach. Because when it comes to finances, one needs to approach it wisely, soberly, and judiciously. If you approach it foolishly, irrationally, using funds and applying them, you can end up in a very big hole. Well, in principle, I think it's more than clear here. That is, I generally consider people who don't come to investing, who don't come to making investments, to be foolish and unserious, and there's really nothing to talk about, and they still need to grow in life. I'll say a little, well, in principle, yes, wait a moment. I'll take a photo. My soul is very open. I'm listening to you.
Yes, with this and investments. That's all there is to it. One phrase, I heard it a long time ago. And if I see you like to delve into the depth to penetrate the essence of being. If you didn't have a bicycle in your childhood, what does that mean? I speak differently. A spoon is dear when lunch is near. We are talking about investments now. Abstaining in the moment for the sake of having something in the future. But in the future, I might not want it that way anymore. You see, when I take it, then I didn't get the salary. I went in, bought what I wanted, and I enjoy it. Well, I need it now, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, but then I won't need it anymore. That is, even if I buy it, I won't enjoy it. But right now, I don't need it. If I buy it, I get that dopamine. I get the emotions, and then I can even hold back later, so to speak. Bought a watch or maybe some trinket, who knows? Another gesture from the bank. I can afford it, you know? I mean, kind of. Let's be objective. We live in the post-Soviet space, and we have something from the Kazakhs. Kazakhs, don't be offended by me. A golden car is a must. Because you feel completely different. It's a status symbol. What investments? Back and forth. What's the price of Bitcoin now? 78, right?
Oh, are you following the market?
Me? No, I'm watching your tears. Katya, you. The investments are exciting. Not because of the investments themselves. I look at these charts. I watch how everyone is lamenting. Yes, of course, when everything is growing, when everything is turning green, everything is good, everything is great. But when everything is crashing, it's just tears. And why is it not clear at all? Then you talk about saving, like forming a cushion, back and forth. I had a story. I invested in Pepe. Thank God, not much. It crashed. Why do I even need it? What investments? What am I talking about? Dima came. I went and had a nice meal at a restaurant. Bought some kind of mod. I understand that in the moment I feel good. I feel fulfilled. I feel like a living person. I feel great. This thing, sit and study charts. Somewhere you'll crash. Why is it needed? Because you have these tears, pain, suffering, and constantly something is pressing on you, and everyone is shouting from all sides. You're screwed. No. I believe you never went to work. I answer those who come. From 9 to 6, but feature of responsibility. 0. At most, do something, get fired. What else do you need? A little money trickles in, you live, enjoy, you have a social circle. Effective hours, when you're actually sitting there doing something, yes, even considering that you're pretending to be busy, well, you'll have about 4 hours. The rest of the time you walk around, drink coffee, chat, have lunch, back and forth, just hanging around. Well, and damn, can you argue with that, right?
You know, it's hard to argue it, especially with someone who thinks like that. So I'll just try to explain to you. To explain it with an example, yes, that is how it was for me. Well, maybe something will get through in our dialogue. I'll tell a short story. Yes, maybe you haven't encountered some situations in life, difficult situations. Yes, maybe everything went smoothly for you without any hesitation, setbacks, or bitter tears. But for me, unfortunately, it was completely different. Yes. So what I'm talking about, I'm talking now specifically about investments, management, capital growth, saving, and creating safety nets. That is, to protect oneself in case of certain situations. That's the first thing. And to give oneself the opportunity to reach a new level of income when I have income coming in from something I created somewhere. And this allows me to earn passively now. The story is sad, painful, and several times this happened to me, as it were, in life. I will now talk about the very beginning, how it happened and how painful it was that I had to come to the realization that money needs to be handled completely differently. Because before, it was just like you say, you earn some money. I remember my income skyrocketed by 40 times. Well, that was really a lot for me. So how did it skyrocket? Well, these were the first youthful earnings, you could call them, the first pocket money. Once upon a time, I had an income of about $50, $60 because I was receiving an allowance. Due to my father's death, he was not around, about $50. Then I started working in the field of legal services. We were selling legal cards and my income. At that time when I was 17, my income grew by 40 times at that moment and even more. The dollar exchange rate then rose significantly to 30-something or even to 42. It was in 2013, 2014, and at that moment, in one day, it jumped to 42 hryvnias, specifically speaking. And accordingly, at that rate, from approximately 1050 hryvnias, the dollar exchange rate increased. Everyone was in shock. But I had an income in dollars, and at that time I had about $1,000 to $1,500, reaching up to $2,000 in income, meaning I was spending money left and right, even 80 times more. I remember during the winter. I was still living with my aunt then, so I was planning to go out, take a trip somewhere, smoke a hookah, relax, work, in a restaurant, eat. But kind of, just like you're saying, exactly the same, my aunt tells me, Shane, are you wearing that jacket? Dress warmer, it's a long way to the bus stop. I said, yes, I have a taxi waiting downstairs. I went down to the taxi, rode along, everything was fine, dressed neatly, not too worried. So I was riding, just enjoying myself like that. And then, at some point, everything went to hell, the structure stopped working, sales stopped coming in, I started slacking off at work because, well, I had all the money come in, so I was spending it until it ran out. And then, when the rooster pecks me, I'll go looking for money again. So, at one fine moment, I faced the fact that I started feeling inadequate. I realized that I needed to move out from my aunt's place. And from all my so-called savings and assets, I was left with an iPhone 5S at that time. Yes, which I had bought. I carried a case for the 5S in my pocket. And then after 2 to 3 to 4 months, I visualized it, and it appeared to me. And it was painful for me to sell this iPhone, but I understood that I needed to leave. To no longer live with my aunt, but to live independently. So I made the decision to sell this iPhone, and at least pay for housing. I took a certain risk, but I only had an iPhone, which at that time, I think I sold for $850, but my income was stable. For about 6 months, maybe even longer, it was around $1,500 to $2,000. I didn't save a damn thing, not a penny, and when you face this, well, you start to realize, damn, I was taking taxis, thinking it was so foolish, and then such a moment of certain realization came, but not immediately, but it allowed me to grow in terms of income. I, of course, started working hard, achieved results, and bought my first car at 19 years old. And I even started gradually, slowly, getting into investments, including crypto. And at one point, circumstances were such that I had no working capital left. Someone withdrew, some for one need, someone for other needs, and it turned out that the turnover just vanished. Some money was there, they weren't much, but they kept being spent, and I hit the point where I had no working capital. By that time, I already had my first child. At 19, to put it mildly, I was in shock, because the car I bought, it had been 6 months. Maybe a year, and I had to sell it, because I was in the same situation as with the iPhone at that moment. Yes, there was no money at all, and at that moment, but the iPhone was already there, it remained, the car was an asset. But it's a foolish asset in terms of, well, it's not quickly sold, right? So, resellers bought this car. I was forced to sell the car because I simply couldn't afford to pay for housing. I sold that car, rode in a taxi, tears in my eyes, as it was such a hard loss for me. Maybe now it would look funny somehow. Yes, I remember it with a smile on my face. With a smile on my face. But at that moment it was not funny at all, because I needed to pay. I had nothing, and I sold my first car at that time. I was lucky at that moment. Yes, I bought Bitcoin at the rate of around $3,500, and Bitcoin grew in range. 3 to 4 months, from 3.5 to 4, my son $3,500, or even 3.3 thousand to about $14,000. And that's when I sold off. I very quickly increased my capital by about 4 or 5 times in a few months. I already had about $50,000. Then I bought another Volkswagen Passat later, only in the highest configuration, a bit newer. Then it continued, yes, meaning deals started happening, and the working capital began to increase. And when you encounter such painful situations in life, yes, well, it's not very fun. But the great thing was that even then, at the age of 20, not somewhere around 22 or 23 years old, it happened at that age, and even then, after those painful situations, I started saving money, started investing money, including in insurance companies, especially if you have a family and responsibilities, and as a man, it's foolish to live. Nowadays, you absolutely need to save, invest, and have a safety net.
Wait, let me close the window, open the window. What are you talking about? I'll repeat. The same thesis that the boss mentioned. Have you ever tried going to work? You came into business? Yes, you took our life away? You work? I worked in the village? Well, damn, maybe someone didn't go to a proper job? So, you're telling what there? And when this came to Euroslugi, yes, those cards, all these stories joke about how it grew. Well, you don't work, there's no income, so we immediately face the fact that you must strictly discipline yourself, go and maintain. You are already getting into some business story, meaning you are immediately getting into risks. I grew up with you working just from 9 to 6. You just need to move your behind from point A to point B and do a clearly defined amount of work that you've been told from above. You do this and that, and you have no further complaints. If you get sick, take sick leave. Invest in work, take sick leave. The career ladder is a very popular story in these companies now. What do you think about reviewing your spare tire? In terms of promotion, every 3 to 6 months. I have a huge number of friends who work in development, and there the salaries are 3, 4, 5. It's generally a normal story to save up. Yes, I agree to save up, but for the sake of buying something you enjoy, like cars. I remember how you were running around with that, landing like a headless chicken. We just told you that when guests arrived, the clothes didn't go to the wash polishing the landing. So they tell me that you need to be really into investing, saving money. You need to enjoy life. We came into this life for what? To enjoy it, right? What did you tell me yourself? A bird doesn't think about what will happen tomorrow. Even a hook doesn't know what will happen tomorrow. Even if it looks at tomorrow. You weren't thinking of a bird, you were thinking of mine. Of course, we rehearsed.
Well, you have such an interesting mindset. Yes, that is work while you can work. If you have money, you should spend it. Well, okay, save it. Well, you're right, of course. You think, you remember. Okay, what if at some point you lose your ability to work? Could that happen? You find opportunities to make purchases, to walk, to move around, and at some point something goes off plan. You stumble. And what will you do?
Listen, stories, let's say failures, don't happen to everyone. That's a normal story. You say in this investor talk that it's a growth point for you, right? Stepping out of the comfort zone. I'm lucky in life. I swear, I'm lucky in life. I had a situation where I lost my job. Yes, that happens sometimes. And I walked around, searched, thought, what will happen? Well, how? Well, nothing was working out at all. It wasn't coming together. And by pure chance, I went into a cafe, sat down, drank coffee, and I see some guy sitting there. I approached him, I don't know, word by word, we started talking back and forth. And it turns out he's a practicing lawyer. I said, listen, I just finished law school, take me on. Well, what can you do? I said, civil and economic justice, this. And that, taxes here and there. He said, come on, join us for an internship. Well, everything was fine. I got started, as they say.
Well, it's fair to say you got lucky with the job invitation. All right, what happened next? If you hadn't gotten lucky, what then?
Listen, why should I think about whether I got lucky back then? Well, I did get lucky.
Yeah, really, have you ever tried investing or thought about any investments?
I told you I jumped into PEPs, but everything fell apart.
Oh, is that the only investment you've made in your life?
Yes, that was enough for me. I would rather have spent that money, I don't know, on traveling somewhere. Well, at least you attended the recording there yourself.
Got it, probably. Yes, what Pepe is. At least after the loss, did you start searching where my money went, why the Pepe coin dropped, or what you did with it?
No, I went and bought some cool sneakers.
I see, well, of course, yes, Pepe dropped a lot. Didn't even save more money.
We live here and now. A bird doesn't think about what will happen tomorrow. A bird lives in the moment. So tell me, well, you said goodbye there.
Did you lose there? You don't even consider that something might happen, or do you just naively believe, like a little child, that tomorrow and today everything will be fine? But what if something goes wrong? It's like you don't think about it, am I right?
Listen, what do you suggest? You told me you were into this cryptocurrency, in bitcoins, in this whole story. I remember, like in that, what's his name? That one, thank you. Trump? He came to power, basically. Yes, I see everyone is happy. Bitcoin shot up, and everything else stayed the same. And now what? Everything has fallen again.
Well, I'm not talking about investing solely in cryptocurrency. I'm not telling you to invest only in crypto. There are many different ways to invest, including in crypto. Yes, and at the very least, insure your life, for example, with an insurance company. That's another element of what happened. Something. You got paid. Or it would be great if, for example, you could build an income from it. You go to work, you enjoy it, you go to every job, I go to work. Well, okay. Let's say I go to each of my jobs in a Porsche somewhere else. Well, in a Porsche. Probably you enjoyed that period of driving cars, but every job of yours was enjoyable. Even during that time before. Did it bring you pleasure or not? Well, you rented an apartment, right? And didn't cover some expenses, some were visible to you, and so on and so on. So most likely, something forced you to go to work because you needed to pay the bills.
I'm the kind of person who changes jobs quickly, so doing just one thing is not really possible. Back then, I liked Pirlo. It was really fortunate. Meaning, yes, I came with a smile. And then I gave up my job positions. I would last 3 months, didn't like it, changed. But even considering this, I presented myself very well at some interview. Everyone came. The rate was good. So that also adds up if you are doing something relaxing. So I just changed places, and everything is good. Everything is great. You did well.
You have the ability to establish good communication with people, find a place somewhere, recommend yourself as a specialist in some cool places, and that gives you the opportunity to earn money. But what comes next with this money and your life? And you are essentially the only asset that can generate income. And if something happens to it, if one thing falls, everything collapses. What then? I'm not talking about myself here. What about you and crypto?
These are risky. Well, these are useless risks. They are not needed. Whether it's investment risks or saving. What risks are there in saving? It depends on what for. If we're talking about saving a certain amount to later somehow multiply it, constantly reinvesting in yourself. Saving just to buy yourself some trinket is a completely different story.
And where is it more interesting to save?
Well, then at least you can understand why you're doing it you're investing there. I know, well, let's put crypto aside, you're investing in something else, not, and let's say it's just sitting there. Even those insurance companies, what percentage do they give per month?
Who knows? There's long-term investing, there are different insurance types, there's different insurance, there's savings insurance, where you accumulate over 20, 30-year contracts, there's life insurance, where you cover damages, and there are certain amounts that can be insured.
Private charges me 20 hryvnias a month in case I break something, God forbid. I even have this cap, a price list for damages, where it says that if you break an arm, the payout is, I think, 5,000. If you break some joint, then it's already 4,000. And I pay 20 hryvnias.
Per month, so you are investing at least 20 hryvnias.
No, I went to the bank to change my card, and they said, let's connect IRA, let's include this for snowboarding. I went to ride, just in case I break an arm or a leg and earn some money. I even thought of slightly injuring my arm for a bonus.
You always seem to think about investments, you know. Insurance is 28 hryvnias, but in case I urgently need, say, 5,000 hryvnias, I could break an arm. So it's like insurance through a broken arm.
Don't twist it to your side, don't pull it over. I'm telling you, I went to change my card for 20 hryvnias. Do whatever investments.
Why and indeed, you thought about old age, that someday, well, it's clear that it will be far away. Well, it seems like just yesterday you were probably going to school, right? That someday somewhere there will be old age. Or, okay, would you like in life at all to stop working or stop receiving income solely from your own actions so that something else brings you additional income? Maybe at least the same amount that you can earn yourself in a month, or an income that can be 10, 20, 30 such sources that can bring you income alone.
What old age? Dude, I live in a country where tomorrow can come before old age. I still need to give this. What are you?
And why is that okay? Why do you have such a rejection of investments? Why don't you think about investments or make investments? Have you ever thought about investments, savings, setting aside money?
Well, I'm telling you, I tried. It was an unsuccessful story. I mean, it was painful. And the money that was spent on it, well, you could have just spent it on yourself and enjoyed it. Investments are something that might pay off in the future, might give you something, or might give you nothing at all. I don't understand these risks that are not backed by anything. Well, I remember just a couple of words. Even in 2021, everything was specific. It was just at its peak. Everyone was shouting, crypto, oh, only crypto, nothing else. Well, there were so many projects, a huge number of projects that were on the market. The idea is not now. So what kind of investments can we talk about? The same thing with Trump. Something came out about, he was talking about, now I see how everyone complains on the internet from those memes you see in the morning. He wasn't talking about 5 trillion anymore. Like, what investments? Are you serious? The same thing, I don't know, creating savings. Well, you all know such a word as inflation, right? I mean, even we, postal workers, understand what inflation is. So what's the point of making investments? Putting something aside, saving, or whatever else you do with it, if it inevitably depreciates. And of course, in the end, you get deceived. No need to go far. There was this interesting thing, a huge MMM called Siroser. In the end, everyone understood. My grandmother had a savings book. She saved for, I think, 15 or 20 years. She could buy herself a new Volga right from the factory. And what do you think? Nothing? There was nothing.
I've heard a similar story that, yes, indeed, there were savings books, I believe. And even people I know who had a situation where there were several million of those coupons, well, in dollar equivalent, yes. That is, from the sale of something, I don't remember, they put the money into a savings book. And then, in the end, when they switched to a different payment format, monetary funds, yes, and there was something around $20,000 upon recalculation. That's it. But the topic of investments is complex. It's not easy. And it's not immediately, not tomorrow, not in a week, most likely, yes. It's more of a long-term story. You need to understand it. It's complicated. It's not easy, you could say that. Of course, there can be mistakes, errors. But in short, you know.
Why flip through the shot?
Extremely. Extremely. We'll be wrapping up the questions, I think, basically. Well, we'll stick to our opinions, not what else is there. One more question. How do you feel about people in general, or what is your opinion about people who are engaged in investments? And they came to investments? And will you ever come to investments?
First of all, that's two questions. Thank you. And secondly, how should I put it to you? Let's put it this way. I'll say this expression. Just within the framework of our Crypto-Bazaar. I had a good acquaintance. He had a catchphrase. It used to feed him, so he wants it. So please enjoy. Engage in it for pleasure. Enjoy it.
Thank you. I think in principle we can sort of step away from these roles.
Yes. Thank goodness.
I have one question here. There are people, after all, who hold exactly this opinion, that investments are risky, I won't get involved, invest or put money in. It's all too complicated. Maybe if you have such people in your circle, is it difficult for you to explain something to them? Or maybe you were once in their place? Because I probably was at some point.
I think that now it's important. Like, this moment already means something. And the nonsense, these debates, when that particular discussion, it's over. Now we need to take off such masks. And the viewers want to get feedback. That is, in general, what position they support. Agree? Either they are on my side or on your side. Yes, basically. Feedback, and accordingly, yes, that is, if there are people around who, like me today, will be in the image of someone unyielding, while people are writing feedback, yes, you, in general, if without masks, yes.
How do you feel about investments?
Now you can talk about it. Two, they were very painful stories. Actually, I had a period when I could afford to buy an apartment, do renovations, make it nice, do it. But I really lived in such a way that we would go, spend money, buy some trinkets. And then at some point, it turned out that when you could live on, say, $8,000 a month, $10,000 a month, you could live. And at the same time, still create some small expenses. And then you start living on $400 like this, somewhere on $200. It hits very hard. And when you don't have a cushion and you're just used to, like, needing something, that's it. Our hands can stand like this. Yes, and even this moment, as if, I believe, like here, good luck. Sometimes you just need to wait it out. You don't need to take any actions, you just need to wait. For 3 to 5 months, just sit on your butt. And when you have nothing, you start to hustle, you start to search, because you want to eat, And it can actually be very unpleasant emotions, completely unpleasant emotions. What you say there, that you don't feel like a man because you can't start something, that's kind of the least of the troubles. Because maybe you might not get sick, but someone in your family might get sick, and something unforeseen might happen. There was a story in 2019 or 2020, somewhere around there, I don't remember. I was driving a car. Everything was fine. Nothing foreshadowed any trouble. And just at some point, I'm standing at a traffic light, and it starts to stall. Well, the engine ceased. An overhaul costs 2.5. Where would I get it from? Well, it's still, thank God, not much, but back then, back when, how old was I? 23 years or something. Well, basically, I had just recently graduated from university. No assets, no savings, no liabilities, nothing. Well, absolutely nothing. But it really hurt.
Yes, I see the feedback that people tend to hold the position that it's necessary to invest. Probably many have encountered similar situations. I'm no exception, I've had them too. And most likely only through pain. Unfortunately, do most people come to realize that you start to think differently somehow. But I could also trace in myself that much of it comes, of course, from the environment, including the one that pushes you towards certain actions. When someone in your circle is already investing, there's a new perspective. Completely different, not the usual one, and the person lives a bit differently. Of course, it's interesting to observe this, and when you have the opportunity to be in such an environment, it's also a huge plus. That's it. From my side, I want to say that through a format like the one we conducted today, you can somehow convey certain information to a person that can play a key role in life, because some events happen precisely at the moment of a speech. Someone invited me, I just remember myself, someone invited me to some conference, someone invited me to some Zoom, to some interesting meeting. And it's at such meetings that there are those very interesting thoughts that can push and lead to ultimately a new correct mindset that wasn't there before. Therefore, if this format is close to you, if you agree that such Zooms are worth conducting, and delve even deeper with new speakers, with perhaps a slightly different format of presentation, then we will continue to think in this direction and periodically prepare such Zoom meetings for you. Well, basically, that's all from me. Is there anything else to add?
Make savings. Invest. Her love with luck.
On friends. Thank you very much for the broadcast and for being with us in such a test format. Yes, thank you for being here. All this time with us, writing comments. Thank you for your attention. Until next time.